Hey, what's up guys? Alexis Montes, and today I got another video for you all. In today's video, we have Retro Bowl and how it connects to Norman's design principles. First of all, what is Norman's design principles? Well, it's basically listed as follows: visibility, feedback, constraints, mapping, consistency, and of course, affordance. Throughout this video, we will be going through how it relates to each and every one of them. Visibility. The moment you open Retro Bowl, you are greeted with 5 save slots and the exhibition game. When I click load on my first save slot, I see a nice layout that shows all the essentials of the game: the schedule, standings, fans, etc. The white boxes with the black backdrops is what the player can interact with, as well as sliding the schedule to see who's their next opponents. Feedback. There is a lot of feedback when interacting with Retro Bowl, but the main feedback that I wanted to focus on is clicking continue and playing a game. Right here in the main slot issue, you can actually pick which uniform you want to play with against the opposing team or your team. Once you start the game, you are greeted with receive, and either the opposing team starts the ball or you start the ball. When swiping, the player moves depending on where you move him when he's returning the punts. The user is now met with a variety of options, either to hand it to the running back or pass/quarterback run. There are times in Retro Bowl where you are offered a free agent from a different team. And you can look at the stats, you can see how much it costs for that player. For example, this guy is worth a couple of draft picks. So when I select him, guess what? Now he's part of the roster, which is another feedback. You know what action has been performed because you have included him into the roster. Other times in Retro Bowl, you are in a press interview and you have to decide whether you want to praise the player or the coach. In this case, I want to praise the player for his good work ethic, which increases his morale. Constraints. In Retro Bowl, there are plenty of constraints to go around with. For example, here in the roster, you can only have 12 guys after paying only $1 in Retro Bowl. But if you play for free, you're only going to have 10 men, which is even fewer than before. The biggest constraint when playing is the quarterback's limited arm strength, meaning he can only throw it for a certain distance, which causes the player to have interceptions or missed catches if they are not aware of this. There's a little yellow dot that indicates where the ball will be at, so utilize this when you want to give it to the wide receiver to score for a good touchdown. The quarterback only has a certain amount of chains plays. For example, I clicked it one time here and he only has one chains play left. It depends how experienced the quarterback is, but he always has a limit. The same can be applied to the kicker, who can only kick for a limited distance, but also the wind can constrain how he kicks the ball well. You have to pay attention to where the wind's going, because right here I didn't pay attention and guess what? It was no good. Another constraint that the player has is that they cannot play defense, only offense, meaning you can just hope your defense is good enough to stop the opposing team from scoring. Mapping. Similar to running plays, Retro Bowl shows the user where each man can go and you decide who is the most optimal to have the ball. Look at the arrows and see how it can affect each play. Consistency. While there is only one game the developers made, it does call back to the old pixel video games from the 70s and 80s, more specifically Tacoma Bowl, which has similar mechanics and mapping out plays. Affordance. When opening Retro Bowl and clicking a new game, you are greeted with what the game is and who you are. You can actually pick out your character as being the coach, you can pick out what team you want, a random avatar, so on and so forth. Once you click continue though, you only have 1 week left, and of course I'm welcome to Washington, but here's the thing too. I can actually go into my front office here, upgrade some facilities, but it tells me to go home, tells me about the roster screen. It gives you a complete introduction to how the game works, at least its fundamental side. When going out though, I can actually do the tutorial. And right here, it gives you the actual basics of the game. For example, the mechanics, the controls, how to swipe left, how to swipe right, how exactly to throw the ball. Retro Bowl also has a small I button that gives the user information on a particular aspect of the game, such as difficulty, player attributes, and morale. The player now knows how to use Retro Bowl properly.